It drops down, Foden helps Kane win it, and now Kane has an opportunity to counterattack. But his decision-making here is awful. He decides to just dribble himself. Get the ball off your foot, man. You're being chased by 3 people. Very good tackle. They basically bully him off the ball and steal it. It's kind of embarrassing, honestly. England had another shocker at the Euros. They drew Denmark 1-1. It was terrible. Let's go ahead and break it down. Welcome to Campfire Football. I'm Sebastian North. So a lot is being said about England right now and what's wrong, and I think people are having a really tough time pinpointing it. It's kind of like take your pick from a list of things. They can't keep the ball. They've got square pegs in round holes. Their fullbacks aren't going forward. I also think their pressing and defending was dreadful. So for the second game running, England played against a 3-5-2. Denmark had Vestergaard, Christensen, and Anderson across the back line. Højbjerg and Hjulmand, who were the 2 pivots, they ran the game. They bossed it. They were absolutely excellent. Eriksen as the 10 ahead of them. Christensen with the K and Mela were the wingbacks, and Vind and Højlund were up front. Gareth Southgate rolled out the exact same team that he played against Serbia, the only difference being that Phil Foden seemed to be deployed more as a left winger, opening up more space for Bellingham and Kane in the middle of the park. Now, one thing I want to mention here before we get to the clips, because you'll see it in those, is the way England pressed and the way their midfield looks so disjointed. If Denmark have the ball here with their center back, they go out to the right center back. What you want to do if you are Phil Foden is get in his face quickly so he can't turn and look up. If you can't do that for some reason, what you have to do is cut off the ball to the wing back and make it predictable where this guy's going to go. You also want to do that and then press the ball so that he doesn't have all the time in the world to wait for more options. But then you got Hjulmand here, the guy who scored. Bellingham would leave him alone a lot. And now you can engage the forwards. Vind would drop into this area a lot to get the ball, and then Christian Eriksen can run off him. The problem as well happened on this side. Bukayo Saka would be so deep that he wouldn't be able to press the ball when it got there, even if it went into, say, Højbjerg. And then what you would see a lot of the time on both sides, whether it was Foden and Trippier or whether it was Walker and Saka, they would double up on one player. What does this mean? Someone's open. And if Bellingham's not following his man, you got problems. All right, so without further ado, let's get into the clips. You can see Phil Foden, he is way out on the left wing on the touchline. So the ball goes into Stones, he looks up, and it goes to Rice, bounce back to Stones, and out to Gehi. Trippier's starting to wander a little infield, and that means that Foden's going to drop down the touchline. Ball goes into Rice, he goes out wide. Trippier bounces it back to Foden, and now you have this issue. Foden and Bellingham getting in each other's way. Bellingham does well to give the ball back to Foden and get out of his way. I don't know how they wriggled out of that situation. But overall, this is good rotation from England. It goes into Alexander-Arnold. He does the right thing by controlling the ball, getting it off his foot, and then moving. Because what it does is it then opens the avenue to Kyle Walker. He gets it, and now they can go up the side. What you've done now is you've stretched the Danish defense, right? They are spread out around the field, and you create 1v1 situations. And 1v1s, when you have overlapping fullbacks, turn into 2v1s. Here, Walker doing a great job of going behind Saka and dragging Christensen with him. That leaves Saka with a little bit more space. He plays it down the wide area. Kyle Walker tries to cross, but yeah, he slips and falls. And the reason why, the pitch was terrible. All right, so here I am going to show you a little bit of the problem that I had with England's press. Bellingham is already more advanced than Kane, and he's just kind of chasing the ball. He needs to conserve his energy and follow the players that he actually needs to be matched up with. Pierre-Emile Højbjerg driving forward with the ball here all the time in the world. And look, Saka is so deep, he's not cutting off the ball to Christensen. Højbjerg doesn't go there. He decides to go inside instead. Notice Vind as well, sort of dropping out into this area here. It forces Rice to make a decision, like, do I go to him or do I protect my back line? Christian plays the ball into Vind, who drops in, goes back to Hjulmand. Now he looks up and he looks at Mela, and Foden's doing a decent job of deterring this ball. He's not really cutting it out, but he's also not pressuring the ball. So Hjulmand has the time to just be like, well, I don't want to go this way, I guess. What's open? The big switch to the other side. And look at Saka. This should be Kyle Walker. But now Saka is the one with the responsibility, apparently, of going all the way back here. He's now even with the 18-yard box. What does that mean? Well, there are players open for Denmark, and no one seems to be pressuring them. Bellingham, not marking anybody. Now he's got to make up the ground and try and get to Højbjerg. It goes back to Eriksen. Bellingham gets here, but Who's open on the other side? Hjulmand. And this would be a problematic space for him to get the ball in, as we would see a little later. Tries to play a ball into Vin's feet, but it gets cut out by Gehi, and the attack is stopped. So everyone has been clamoring for Phil Foden to be playing more as a 10, more inside, more in the midfield. And that makes sense because when he is in this position, he can make things happen. Now, I also believe that you need people in the wide areas. Someone has to be there. So here, Walker has the ball, goes to Saka, back to Walker. But what's good about Walker being here is Denmark just have to drop, because you have a marauding fullback who's very quick, who is very good at delivering the ball in the box. Ball goes back to Alexander-Arnold, into Saka, and he takes a look up and he doesn't really see much. Goes into Stones and then into Rice. Saka has done this a lot. He'll play the ball back and he will run inside to try and get it to where he can maybe dribble in and shoot. By doing this, he leaves space behind him, and if Walker is there, he can get it and be wide open. And now when he gets a look up and he takes a touch like this, the entire Danish defense have to be ready for a cross. But Walker, he sees Phil Foden, and he plays a nice little no-look ball right on the ground into his feet. Phil Foden looks like he's going to shoot, so Højbjerg dives in, gets beat. Now Foden's able to dribble in, and we've seen him score from this position many, many times. England could have been up 1-0 right here. Unfortunately, he misses, but they would take the lead moments later anyway. Foden here is camped out on the left wing. The ball goes out to Trippier. Can you take Denmark to one side and then all the way to the other as well? This is what's going to stretch them out. Foden gets the ball, plays it into Trent Alexander-Arnold. The ball can now get switched to the other side. Kyle Walker receives, turns, faces forward, plays it inside to Saka. He's going to go into Bellingham, and what is the obvious thing? As I said, Saka, when he tucks in, it leaves a giant avenue for Kyle Walker to run. Bellingham plays the ball, and what's interesting is because it's under hit, I think Christensen thought that it was supposed to be to Saka, and he doesn't realize that Walker's coming up the back of him. He just slows down a little bit. Walker steals it, goes in. Denmark do a good job of filtering back and making it a little bit scruffy and get a touch, but Kane does get the ball 6 yards out, has no problems, scores 1-0 England. But the lead would not last long, and I'm blaming Bellingham. Well, not really, but he was a major symptom of what I thought was the problem with their pressing. Here, look, Denmark have the ball, little bounce pass back to Højbjerg, and he looks up. Wants to maybe play the ball to Mela. Foden needs to be cutting this off and advancing and pressing to the ball. Kane also needs to step up a little bit. They don't. The ball goes out to Mela, and this is what I talked about on the tactical board. Now Foden is dropping in, and you have 2 England players marking 1 Danish player. Bellingham is very close to Hjulmand here. Ball comes back to Højbjerg. He looks up, and Foden does actually go and press him here. He gets in his face, and he's able to win the ball. Unfortunately for him, it does go straight to a Danish player. Bellingham is now close to Eriksen. The ball goes into Eriksen and gets bounced back. Hjulmand finding space in the middle. Alexander-Arnold needs to push up to him to make sure he doesn't get too much time on the ball. He does, so bounce pass goes back. But now look at Christian Eriksen. He has gotten off the back of Bellingham, who's not really paying attention to him. Bellingham is watching the ball, and Vind is dropping into this area that I mentioned. Declan Rice doesn't know whether to follow him or not. I think he should, because watch what happens. Ball goes into Vind. Bellingham ball watching. Rice not close enough. The split goes into Eriksen, and this is a problematic scenario. This is Christian Eriksen, top of the box. So Bellingham does well to get the block in, but that was just one example, and we would see a few more. Denmark would score. They would equalize through Morten Hjulmand, and it's an absolutely fantastic strike, but an absurd goal to give up. Harry Kane, what are you doing trying to receive a throw-in this deep? And then when you get it, you do this touch, and you try and whip the ball out of your feet to who exactly? I think he's trying to get it to Bellingham. He totally mishits it. Denmark pick it up, and here's the problem that I had with Bellingham just chasing the ball around like he's a dog chasing a frisbee. Walker's the one that should press up to this ball. Instead, Bellingham's the one that runs to the ball. Walker drops off, and it leaves Hjulmand with plenty of space, and this is a bomb. Denmark equalize. Now, Hjulmand is not a very well-known player. He actually got his debut in the side, I think, like 6 months ago. He would get a lot more confident here, thanks to England just basically not picking him up. So, Denmark have the ball. You can already see Bellingham's not really in a good position, and Hjulmand is completely wide open, but he doesn't get it there. It goes out to Christensen. He looks across. Let's see if we can shift England. Can the ball go out to the wing back? Yes. Phil Foden dropping as opposed to cutting off the pass and advancing. And also, Hjulman. Bellingham should be over here because Saka, I don't know why Saka's marking Højbjerg. That should be Trent Alexander-Arnold's job. People are marking the wrong ones, so it just makes it so much easier to destabilize the group. Because Bellingham was just strolling around and didn't follow Hjulman, now Hjulman gets the ball and Kane is the one coming back. Ball goes out to Mela. He doesn't have options, so he goes backwards. Foden starting to come up, but take a look. Bellingham is super close to Højbjerg. Kane is now the one that apparently is supposed to be marking Hjulman. Ball goes back, and Bellingham is going to stare at the ball right here and just let Højbjerg just come off his shoulder a little bit. I don't know why. Ball goes into Højbjerg. Saka's not closer to him either, so he's able to turn and look up, and he's also not cutting out the pass to the wide area. Now, it doesn't go there, but it lures England to a false sense of security. Like, oh yeah, we've got them. They're not going anywhere. Denmark don't have anything in front of them. Højbjerg gets the ball, and he switches it out to Joachim Andersen. Phil Foden, because he's tucked in so far, when he goes to press this ball, it's harder for him to cut the pass off. Trippier also nowhere near close enough, so when Mela gets the ball, he's going to be able to look up. And the third problem, wide open right here, is Morten Hjulman. And Bellingham is just walking. So Kane's going to recognize late that Hjulman is wide open, but Trippier should have been here. And then you're just leaving the center midfielder open. Oh, that's a problem. Kane slides in. Hjulman turns. He's just scored a goal from a little farther out than this, so why not shoot? Blocked. England survived that one. So yeah, that was really disappointing seeing Bellingham just let players run off him and watching how disjointed England were. They were getting very few opportunities, attacking very little, and Denmark were starting to find these patterns over and over again. Hjulman again looks up. He's able to find Højbjerg. Foden is not close enough. Harry Kane's the one now dropping in, and you can't quite see Bellingham yet because he went to press a little higher. So when Mela gets it, he looks up and he's able to try and whip one in. Guehi wins the ball. It drops down. Foden helps Kane win it, and now Kane has an opportunity to counterattack. But his decision making here is awful. He decides to just dribble himself. Get the ball off your foot, man. You're being chased by 3 people. Very good tackle. They basically bully him off the ball and steal it. It's kind of embarrassing, honestly. Hjulman has it. He goes out wide. Ball goes back, and now the Danish are able to recycle. Now here, Christian Eriksen decides to do something a little different. Hey, they're not picking us up. I can just receive it where I want and do what I want. So Eriksen gets the ball. Kane is miles off him. I don't know why. Get up the field. Instead, Eriksen, he just points. Hey, someone make a run. Højlund, make that run. Eriksen, tons of time on the ball. Why would you leave this open? Pierre-Emil Højbjerg is running into the picture, and he's all alone, and he's able to get a strike at goal. It's just absurd from England. This is such bad defending, and it went 1-1 into halftime. The thing that's weird about England is that, the players have said there is no directive from Southgate saying drop off. So why do they do it? Well, in my opinion, it all comes down to the fact that they press so poorly that they eventually have to take evasive action and just drop. That's safe, I guess. And frankly, the second half was not much better at all. Now, I thought Bukayo Saka had a very good game. When he gets the ball, he is dangerous, but it helps him if the fullbacks join. So I just wanted to mention this. Walker gets the ball, drops it back to Kane. It goes out to Saka, and now what do? There's a bunch of Danish players in here, but Saka is so tricky. He's able to get away and split the 2 of them. Ball goes to Kane, and this is the obvious run to make, Walker. If Walker makes this run, they have a 3-on-2 right here. Why don't you use it? Instead, Walker just gets behind Kane. It's just kind of negative, and so they go backwards. So then Southgate would make some substitutions. He would bring on Ollie Watkins, and he would have an almost immediate impact. But this is something that Ollie Watkins will always bring that Harry Kane only sometimes does. Immediately makes the run. Bellingham sees it. The ball is absolutely fantastic, and it is so close to being the winner. The perplexing thing about England is how disjointed they look for a team that is not missing any big players. This is Southgate's favorite team aside from apparently Calvin Phillips, and that, from what he said, is causing all kinds of issues. England are not going to go far in the tournament if they continue to play like this. Southgate's got some big decisions to make. Thanks for stopping by. I'm Sebastian North. This is Campfire Football. Take it easy.